Just giving the basic layout for those that are sort of familiar with what's going on. The fish market currently is in this southerly half of the parking lot. The grading is going on for this area right here, which will be part of our pop-up Nordic Park. And their phase 2 of the fish market, which is then going to be temporary for a couple of years before they move into their permanent home further south.
Oh, I don't mean it, yeah, I'm interrupting because I don't
Please.
think the students might know what a pop-up is.
So this is 6th Street here, Harbor Boulevard. We're downtown, right up here, 6th Street, which is over there. So a pop-up is just sort of a event space where you have different food vendors, merchants, makers. It could be a lot of different things. And so we're making it a very flexible space. And I'll kind of go into some of the other uses that we'll have down the road. But this is a very northerly part of West Harbor, maybe the top 1/3 of it or so. Town, Maritime Museum's up there. Next.
Just a second. All of a sudden,
What's a BOH connection?
Where is that? Let me look at it.
there you go.
It's on the list.
Oh, you want to see the previous
Yeah,
one?
BOH access right in the middle.
Right there.
Excellent question.
How about permanent cuts? What's that?
That is actually built, that is part of the port's work, the original design. So Port built a promenade and part of it was putting these extra wide cutouts and events. When we had our groundbreaking, we had things in there. We had Pride, the big tent was in there. So these were where the only place we could do events, originally, but now this will allow us to do
Did you make me a
more events in a more centralized, better design, more, close to downtown, which I will.
Yeah, you want to?
Talk to. I will talk to shortly.
No.
Back of house.
Back of house.
Back of-
Oh, that's right, yes.
Okay.
That's the working element.
Yes,
Mhm.
and next slide. Again, just some contextual shots. This is some pictures of our groundbreaking. Had a car show there, the fish market. This is the renderings of our new pop-up, which will have some bigger ones, but this is kind of just, the idea is putting it in context. And our 2 existing tenants, Harbor Breeze Cruises and the San Pedro Fish Market. This is a pop-out right here. Thanks. So here is the basic, again, an aerial view of it. The flexible lawn space, a stage for music, you could do movies, you could do, there's a whole lot of things that we, like the yoga in the morning, a lot of, activities like that, kind of able to program all the way through the day. Could be community groups doing it, can be, people take up residence, like we'll have a coffee place, we'll have maybe some smoothies, some other food, a bar over here. And we call it beer garden, but basically it's not an exclusive beer. Anybody can sit there and have a smoothie, say. So that's kind of basically this is temporary, while we're doing the rest of the work and in conjunction with the fish market. So, seating for dining, for eating, just a reason for, if you will, people to come from downtown to the waterfront. And as we attract our millions of visitors to West Harbor, a reason them to come north, find downtown and just do this. Part of what we were tasked with when we got the bid from the port was the seamless interface between downtown and the waterfront. And this is sort of our attempt.
Why it's small.
Thank you. Can you just push the button so she'll stop, one of the side buttons.
Okay, gotcha.
Thank you, sorry.
Glad to help.
Even though I lost my train of thought. So yes, so that is again, when I say temporary, it'll be there for a few years and who knows what the final analysis or what we're gonna do with this space. But we feel it very important to make that downtown connection. Next. Okay, this is some of the things that we've got, you know, waterfront music, movies, makers market, farmers market. A lot of different possibilities, bingo, karaoke during the week, stroller strides, whatever that is, I'm not sure what that is, but. Okay, working out with a stroller.
Walking.
Is there a child, is there a child in the stroller?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, okay, stuff like that.
Yes.
So a lot of very, you know, kind of, we want it to be open for some creative things that people come up with. You know, we'll have our own level of programming. We'd love it to be open and busy 24/7. Not 24, but 7 for sure. Things like, I won't read them all, but you know, the Olympics are coming this summer. We'll have a view party for the Olympics. Olympics will be in Los Angeles in 2028. We hope to have a, you know, non-official, we've already sort of talked with Joan and the LA Tourist Bureau. We're not going to be eligible for an official fan zone, but we'll, you know, do a unofficial San Pedro fan zone. So it'll again have a lot of activity, have a lot of things going on, as it's such an important kind of node connecting downtown and the waterfront. Chamber of Commerce party.
Yes, we've already booked a date.
Lauren has that is good. You know, and all the other things, and for those who were able to attend Saturday, I was at the holiday spirit of San Pedro. I think we got a really good turnout.
Yes.
And it was fun after that. And so doing, you know, kind of adding to events that already happened, like the Chamber's spirit, the Christmas parade. And then the holiday, the Makers Market, which we've kind of done with Melissa Hay of Cracker. So that's just a sampling, but we're open to ideas. We'd love for people to think of it as of adding events, adding things that we can do down there. Next. Well, I think I've already covered this. So basically this idea.
Will there be a dance floor there?
Can you dance on
Yes.
AstroTurf?
No.
But Grand Vision has a dance floor that we might be able to borrow. So yes,
Excellent.
yes. So yeah, things like that, we can do it. But part of it will be, one of the big things we want to have with the amphitheater that we're hoping to get down the road is to music be a big part of what you can do at West Harbor. And so from very small stages, very large stages, and in between. Next. This is Lauren's latest map, which I included just because I thought it was neat. Basically the same side, kind of just pulling it back into the street grid of San Pedro of downtown. And locating yourself, thanks. Another rendering of the same area with lighting and shade and, you know, a lot of the things that aren't, there'll be more shade there because, you know, in the middle of summer it gets awful hot, but this kind of gives you an idea of the layout of the furniture and those things that we're adding. Next. This is another of the food area. I'm not sure we're going to do that sign, but we'll do something. We'll be identifying it. Probably won't have a surfboard shop, but who knows? These are a lot of this inspiration. Next. Again, this, you know, this will be the view from the west side over and out with the stage down here. And, you know, eventually we'll have, and it'll be a nice truss over it with good sound system, good lighting, and we're going to be building it over time as we get our feet underneath us. Okay. And our new branding, this is brand new. We haven't really, it's not been put out to the public, so you're all seeing it for the first time outside of our office. The name we've come up with for just that area is Birth 84, because guess what? It's located at Birth 84. We danced around a lot. It's been in North Park for a long time. But then we just
I like it. I like birthday.
yeah, it's our proprietary font. It's San Pedro Sands. Next, I think we just have a couple. Another cutout. Someone's asking about that. That's one of the bigger ones. And I think one more promenade shot. And that's about it. Very quick and dirty.
And
Talk to me about the fish market, where it is now, where it's going to be, and then where it's gonna be. I mean, we've got,
You go back a little, maybe,
and timing.
uh,
You go all the way back.
all. Okay, I don't have a slide that goes all the way down to the. So the fish market is, you remember they were down here before?
Right.
They moved to here. They're gonna move there and then eventually move you can imagine it's driving all of us insane. Move down to, okay, so you know where the promenade takes a jog? It's basically be just south of that jog.
It'll be the first major building as you go.
Yeah, it's not far from where they were before.
When will it move to this spot?
June,
June.
hopefully, it's supposed to be May. We hope to get it in front of, we hope to be done by IPW, the big tourism convention coming to Los Angeles. That's not gonna happen. It's just city of Los Angeles is the LAUSD, the building department is very backed up. And they've had a lot of big turnover of personnel, and it's just taking a long time to get any of the permits out. We're actually grading, for those who've been down there. There is grading going on, fish markets, this is all fish market work, they're doing all the grading. So they're doing it, but there's some of the other permits are just kind of lagging. Also, ABC is sort of not. There's issues and changes and things that everyone's got to deal with. Believe it or not, there's a lot of red tape in the city of Los Angeles.
So this will be the final move?
No, the final move is down south. So this will be temporary too. There's no indoor space. Yeah, but a lot more permanent. It'll have more permanence. It'll be there for a couple of years. So it's not technically temporary space. It is hybrid space. Yeah, hybrid space. That, you know, could be then repurposed for some other potential tenant down the road. So, but their permanent long-term goals with the building we call 1C, which is just off this map.
Now, what is the pop-up part at this figure speak?
We're gonna go with them because they're doing the work. So it's June, fingers crossed. You know, we definitely do not want to miss summer. Hello, welcome.
There's a seat there and there's some seats over here.
So, yeah, you know, this was all May. We were very comfortable. It was all gonna be done in May. We were gonna open by IPW. We were gonna be open by Fleet Week. We were gonna be open by Mother's Day. It was all very, we had plenty of time to get that done.
It's not happening.
No, we're that way. And it never does. We have been working on this project now. We're in our 13th year of working on it. So it's like, oh, you're delayed. Oh my gosh. We've never had that happen before. We get a little used to it. Which I say that now with young people around. They usually have different words.
Now, how is the phase one completion looking?
Good. That part's going pretty smoothly. We're hoping to turn it over. It's funny, June is the month. We will be done with our work. Our contractor pulls off, starts work on building 1B, just north. And then we turn it over to tenants who will do their build out. You know, 6 to 9 months, it all depends on them, how quickly they get after it, how extensive they are. And then we're shooting for a grand opening in, say, August 2025, but we feel very comfortable that there will be some people ready to be open sooner than that. And so we'll have some soft openings sooner. We'll open it up as soon as the first person gets their C of O and we're ready to go. Because they'll be anxious to start selling whatever they're selling.
So currently, what's the level of occupancy that you have for this?
It's like 74%. Basically where we have been, we've been out really courting retailers. Because, you know, we've got a lot of food and, you know, there's a limit to the amount of stomachs that you can fill. We have not had great luck with retailers. I think, you know, everyone knows retail has changed a lot. You know, there certainly is. You can get sunglasses, you can get, you know, gifts. But those aren't the tenants we want. I mean, we want those tenants too, but we want this more prime retail space to be, you know, I could say the brands that we're talking to, I don't know any of them. So they don't stick in my head, but everyone assures me they're really top-notch brands. And again, it's a unique thing for people to be. It's not a mall. It's a different sort of place, and so retailers also don't need as much time to build their space out. So they're a little more. Their timing is a little bit more. We can do more waiting and seeing. Yes.
You said so many brands you don't know.
I don't know like any.
But like also can to like put in the use of some pages, like
they're all much younger than I think that's the reason I don't know any of them is that, well, first of all, I don't do shop much. That's not on Amazon, which is what's killing retailers. But yes, there will be definitely a younger focused, young focused, retail mix too.
Is it in, you know, in, because what if you guys?
We'd love to hear it. Sure, absolutely.
But like, oh, one of the brands, so, like, you say you can't remember, but if you do have a list eventually, maybe.
Well, we have a prospect list, but if there's people that we should go after that you think would be valuable and that would be successful there, go on LAwaterfront.com and westharbor.la.com, sorry. And there's an info page. We'd love to hear anybody's suggestions because, you know, we've got the brokers out there banging on doors and it's not that they will come. They for sure will come. It's just, we want to make sure the first people in are brands that attract other good retailers. Because retailers are very concerned about who they're next to.
Val showed me a list back in November, a secret slide. It's very hip. I would just
Yeah,
tell you.
see, I wouldn't know.
Can you remember any of this very hip?
Johnny
brands?
was.
But you know.
The only reason I know that
if he wants
is
to
Liz.
give us- If you want to give us. Tonight, you'd probably take them.
Oh, of course we would.
Yeah, if you want.
Go on our info page at West Harbor.
Just write something and hand it to
Oh,
him.
sure, do that too.
If you want to write something tonight and just hand it to him, I'm sure,
Okay.
or hand it to me if he's gone and we'll take.
Yeah, no, we love it. We're out there beating the bushes. And look forward to, you know, a good retail mix, because it can't be all food. I mean, we have entertainment with the amphitheater, we have hopscotch, which is this experiential art gallery thing, and, you know, we're gonna have, you know, orders, and that's part of what North Park is some other activities that aren't necessarily inside. And because we have 42 acres, and so we have a lot of outdoor activity, outdoor opportunities.
What are the ones, just so they know, what are the ones you definitely have in terms of the outdoor?
Retailers,
What have you got going on in the outdoors, North Park section?
Oh.
Definitely,
we don't have anything definitely.
oh,
We're building it out. I mean, we're talking to people that are we want a coffee place, we want a tea. We've actually talking to a couple of tea people, but. You know, just because we're still in negotiations, I shouldn't be naming names. But so you look for coffee and tea, smoothies. I think that was on one of the slides. So there are people that are interested. We have a boba guy out there now.
and I'm talking about the other,
North Park.
it's farther south, I
Oh,
mean, farther, whatever that direction, yeah, farther south.
right, closer to the Maritime Museum?
Yeah, no, farther from the Maritime Museum.
Okay.
To the north.
To the south.
South,
Loading.
south,
Oh,
farther south. Farther south from there.
Yeah,
You've got some other things planned, right?
we do.
The park social and,
We have our social. We're actually talking with, and we're going to the EIR, a 150-foot Ferris wheel.
Yep.
oh, that'd be fun.
And a double decker carousel and a drop thing. So, but that's in the works. That's nothing, I mean, we're trading lease draft. They're very interested and we're very interested to have them. But we also need to hear from the EIR, which we have yet to, we were supposed to hear back from that sometime in September and so far we have not heard. And don't have a new date. We're still working on
I think James Capital has a question, if you want to call on James.
it. Sure, James,
James,
what you got?
let me see.
is that James Campe?
Oh, Campo.
Yeah, but it says CAMPE on here.
Let's see.
CAMPE, do you want to talk?
I might need to.
Or it has to be on yours because I don't have my sound on.
James, Campo, can you hear us? I don't know if he can.
Might be muted.
Got his hand up.
I know,
Yeah,
You can still be muted.
maybe it was earlier.
No.
Do we have any other comments or questions for Alan?
Looks great, Alan.
Thank you.
I thought I saw some kind of an opening for this section. Was that an earlier version that got
Yes.
moved?
Yes. That was when it was gonna be, we were gonna be open by May for sure.
Okay.
Nothing could stop the city is, yeah,
The amphitheater, what's going on there?
we're waiting to draft the idea. Patiently waiting for it. You know, the talk was it was September for a very long time. And sometime in the middle of September, we thought, well, we better move that back. And then it's the end of the year, it's the beginning of the year, and no, we're just waiting to hear. But I'm sure they're very diligently pursuing it, prosecuting it, so.
And still the same company is interested.
Nederlander concerts, yeah, they're very interested. And interestingly, I was just in Long Beach, for their pop concert, their pop orchestra, and the mayor was there. And announced their temporary, amphitheater.
We have to be in Long Beach.
Yeah, so I got a chance to chat with him afterwards, and, he goes, oh, we're not gonna be competing with each other. There's gonna be 12,000 people, we're only 6. We'll go away.
Ellen, the pressure is on.
That's what
We
I
must
said.
be first.
Well, what I said was, you know, we're fine, we're not worried. And I didn't say anything, it's like, because the rest of my table were from Long Beach. And they said.
Try James one more time, you still got to.
I
They say
tried
a
it
lot of things,
several times.
so I'm hoping,
They are trying to beat us, just so you know.
yeah, they are, what a coincidence they did. Second. Anything else, any other?
I'm just trying to see if James has got his hand up still.
Well,
James, are you able to hear
it's
us?
muted.
I asked him to unmute.
Too late.
Can you hear me? Can you?
Oh, there, yeah, we can hear you.
Hi, thank you, Alan, for the presentation. Just a suggestion, it's always been, you know, everybody sitting along the promenade, walking along there, gazing across the main channel, and there's the tank farm. And I think the tank farm could be improved either by putting artist murals in front of it or making the tank farm the tanks an actual mural of local artists or whoever, but that it should be part of the scenery down there, unless people really like that industrial look of, you know,
Dude.
kind of tank.
I couldn't agree more. I think we could, that could be
PAIP.
all spruced up. And one of the things we've talked about, because there was a film done at Bethlehem Steel, you know, the big shipyard right across the way. And they lit the cranes up,
Oh, wow.
and they put this great neon, it was, you know, some Hong Kong
It could be a
nightclub,
good,
and
yeah.
helicopters were like people getting out, and it looked so good. So you could, with some interesting lighting, you could really make that other side seem.
Like they
really
lit the
interesting.
battleship Iowa,
Yeah,
they did the
like
light
they
show
blew
on
out,
Iowa.
yeah.
That is another great idea.
Yeah, you might even be able to do projections on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so there, I mean, there's a lot of creative ways to do it, just to make our whole waterfront a lot more, you know, just spruce it up and clean it up, and, you know, we're working with PVID and other things to make Harbor Boulevard look better, you know, the entrance into town. Luckily, we've got Alex Valente, who's represents Trammell Pro on their building there, and they're very interested in having some other people ready to carry some of this and support it, and, you know, fund it, and some of these other things. I think there's a critical mass building to really make that look nicer down there.
Thank you.
Excellent. Anybody else?
Thank you.
Any further questions? Thanks, Alan.
Thank you, thanks for having me, appreciate you.
Lauren, thank you for the slide.
Yes, yes.
Isn't that one darling?
No, I don't think she.
I'm
And I
passing.
didn't hear from her that she was.
Any of,
coming either.
any of the
Okay.
students want to add a comment or some activity they'd like to see, or retail, or I'm just passing the book down to you could add your comments.
Very good. Okay, we are gonna skip item 3 on the agenda for the moment, and we're going to move on to the next item 4, which is a housing element update, rapid strategies. Diana, how do we?
I'll start. Yeah, the housing element is something we've been talking about now for a couple of years. That's the city has a general plan and part of their general plan is a housing element. Every city or every entity in the state has one. And there are state laws that govern what goes into the housing element. And this year, the city of Los Angeles was required to plan for about 500,000 additional housing units as part of the housing element, which is a huge increase because we're only a city of about 3 million. So it's a lot of work has gone in by the planning department to try to figure out how to do this. And on top of that, a large part of those additional units have to be considered affordable. And so the planning department has revised their strategies, and they're now looking at 3 basic strategies that affect our area. And so Robin and Javier and I kind of divided those up to talk about them tonight. And then we also have with us Maria and Jeff and an additional person, Tom, who have some more citywide knowledge about it, but we're all kind of just delving into the maps were just released. We're trying to understand them. It's going to have a huge impact on what is allowed to be built where in our community. And we could see some big changes as a result. But we also still have a chance to have some influence, not a lot of influence, but some influence around it. It also means that for us as a neighborhood council, looking at what's being proposed is going to be a lot more difficult. Because what we found just in looking at these is they're very complicated. Do you want to start getting the maps up? I'm going to talk about the first one, which is what's called opportunity corridors. But before I do, I'll start with a caveat, and that is that many of the strategies that they talk about have geographic eligibility based on existing and planned transit routes, as well as something called the State Tax Credit Allocation Committee for Opportunity Areas. And so those are things that get updated. And when those things get updated, it could impact these maps. So every year, these maps could actually change based on how those things change.
But Diana, are these new maps from what we've seen
Yes.
before? So these are new and updated. Okay, thank
These
you.
are updated, and there've been a lot of changes. You know, the first maps, they had way more than they needed. And the big change is they took out most of the things that were affecting single family neighborhoods. So most things that are zoned for single family are not impacted by the new maps. But when we get down to which is the affordable housing section, you will see that San Pedro is massively impacted. So the opportunity corridors is a strategy that's proposed primarily in Northwest and in coastal. And there are 2 types of opportunity corridors for San Pedro. Opportunity corridors 1 and 2. Opportunity corridors 1, and we'll see them on the map in a minute when Javier gets it up. The darker blue areas are ones that are supposed to have what they call frequent bus service corridors, 30 minutes or less frequency during peak hours. And then they have some that are in teal, which are opportunity corridors 2, which is supposed to have high quality transit service corridors, which is 15 minutes or less frequency during peak hours. Well, as I look at this map, I don't see anything on it that has 15-minute or better bus service for the teal areas.
To bus service to where?
Didn't matter where,
It
it
is-
just came by. Can you blow it up? Gotta get it in so people can see it.
It's gonna be hard.
Yeah, just keep going in.
I'm waiting.
Actually,
for
I'm
it.
sorry, Diana, it doesn't matter to where the local bus service just around town. They're talking about stuff like the Silver Line that could get you out of Pedro and down to
It's-
other parts of LA.
The only one that should be, as far as I could tell, it's the only one that would beat that. But if you look at where the opportunity corridors are, they're not by the Silver Line.
Yeah.
And so I think that the teal opportunity corridors must, I think it's an issue we're gonna have to raise with them. There you go. You can see on Western Avenue there, down by 25th and Western, that whole area is teal. And then you see over What street are you over here?
25th.
Yeah, up at 25th, but what's the street going up?
That must be
No,
Myler.
Myler. See all of that? That's all teal. There's no bus service over there that's every 15 minutes. Those are the areas for the opportunity corridors.
Can I just say for coastal, there is a little area just underneath 25th there that's in coastal jurisdiction. FYI.
Yeah, a lot of that's in coastal jurisdiction. So these opportunity corridors would be eligible for several incentives in exchange for a set aside of a certain number of affordable units. And then there's a scale, depends on how many they set aside, what kinds of incentives they'd be eligible for. But it appears that there would be no parking requirements for any of them, which is another thing that's, I think, been of great concern to us, is when they have no parking. The dark blue areas would basically allow for up to 5 stories, while the teal areas would allow for up to 6 stories. And then if there were public benefits included, that could result in an additional story. So you could actually go up to 7 stories in those teal areas. So that's what's proposed there. We can go to the next map. I think that's Robin.
That's 25th up to 19th. Teal area.
Yeah, that's all teal.
Haven't we gone through this before? Is this just a review or?
We've not, these are new maps.
These are the ones that have been recently published within
Well, it's the same area we've been
the
arguing.
same area, but
Yeah.
now these are more refined.
But you're right, planning's been looking at 25th and Western for years.
Yeah, they're gonna tear down 6 family
Opportunities.
homes and put up 6-story buildings.
So look at commercial sites, like the Smart and Final, and that is for an apartment site.
Yeah, but I'm talking the rest of Western.
Well-
Yeah.
Robin, is this the one that you,
18 million.
Yeah, just zoom in a little bit more. These are what they're calling the opportunity corridor transition areas. And so they're between the lower scale residential neighborhoods and these opportunity corridors that are, much taller, mid-rise type apartments. And there's 2 categories you see on the left there, CT1 and CT2. CT1 are sites within 350 feet of an opportunity corridor. So that's the lighter yellow. And then CT2, the darker, those are sites within 150 feet of the rear property line of an opportunity corridor. And they have to be in an RD or an R2 zone and within a higher opportunity area. And just to give you a feel, there's 2 categories for CT1. And again, that's the lighter orange, right? One is for 4 units and you get a 1.15 FAR, no parking, as Diana mentioned, and you can go up to 2 stories, no number of feet designated. And then there's category B, either 5 units or 6 units. You can go up to a FAR of 1.3 to 1 or 1.45 to 1. Again, no parking and 2 stories. And then for CT2, remember that's the darker orange, and that's if you're within 150 feet of an opportunity corridor. There's 4 different categories, 7, 8, 9, and 10 units. The FAR goes all the way up to 2 to 1, no parking, and 3 stories. So these are, as it says, transition areas between the higher opportunity corridors and the normal, what we know now as these residential areas that are lower scale.
yeah,
I think there's
There-
some higher up too, if you want to scroll up. There's a little area there.
If you go up to northwest, you'll see behind, if you move the map up, you can see where the blue areas are along Western there, which are the ones I was talking about. And then behind them are these transition areas.
okay.
And there's a
Yeah,
lot more detail than that. They give you the rear yards and, the front yards and the entrances and all these different requirements we won't go into today.
There's a lot of different exemptions they can get for these.
Yeah.
And these are in exchange for a percentage of low income or moderate income housing. So Javier, that gets you to yours.
Okay, let me,
Here's a question.
yes,
These are all based on transit-oriented corridors, or are these all based on frequency of bus service, right?
So those, the opportunity corridors and the transition ones are yes.
Right, and two questions. One, where do the buses have to be going to? I mean, something where people actually want to go, number two. Did I hear you say something in your conversation with the planning people? That it didn't necessarily mean that there actually is bus service there, but there might be someday.
Well,
There's bus service on Western.
yeah, but it isn't every 15 minutes.
But there may be someday.
yes.
But maybe we fight for transit. Maybe we really put fight for future transit here in the community. We get requests at the chamber all the time for increased transit, how to get around the community. I think maybe that's part of our push too.
You're right.
Okay, so the next part of the effort on the rezoning is to help with the affordable housing projects. So affordable housing incentive program focuses on projects that are 80 to 100% affordable projects. And there's 4 phases that they focus on this. I just did some quick overall of this. So they will, for a project to qualify, it can be 5 or more units, and 5 and less units receive lesser incentives. One of the things that I found interesting is there's this low vehicle mile travel designation on some sites. And according to the definition of the vehicle miles travel, it's the measure of how much actual travel is done as part of a proposed project, which if it creates more traffic on local roads, it becomes a significant impact on the community. So I'm not really sure how they determine the ones that we have on town, and you will see in the next slide. But we also are looking at extending affordable housing projects to parking zones, which we don't have a lot of them in town, but we do public facility zones or parcels owned by public agencies. Here's an overall look of the zones. Public owned facilities are the kind of like yellowish tone. Low density and high density are the dark and light blue. In the low vehicle miles traveled, sites are in the low density in the light green, which is a lot of the central district closer to the harbor, if you can see on the right side of the map. And the high density is the dark areas. Then there's some citywide parcels, which I really couldn't find too many. But just curious how they determine the low volume miles travel on the properties, which are numerous on our city, and how that affects us on future development. Again, these are for 100% affordable housing projects, which is not every project that we get.
Go back to the map. The thing that I find interesting on the map too is that, like in what they're calling opportunity areas, not to be confused with the opportunity corridors, this is something different. Some of the opportunity corridors are also shown as opportunity areas. They could be both. But what I don't understand is how in the same block, you can have one that's called a high density and right next to it a low density and next to it a high and next to it a low. And I'm hoping that Maria and Jeff may have some insight into that. I don't know, but I just think that I don't understand that. The same thing happens with your vehicle miles traveled. You've got right next to
Right, yeah.
things you've got.
Within the same block.
Yeah, interspersed. Some of it makes sense because it's right on the corridor, but some of it doesn't. You have any idea, Maria?
I don't, but Tom, do you have any comment on that?
So
No, I don't. I don't.
These questions will ask planning.
Yeah, you know what, this is why, this is all very preliminary, we're all looking at all these maps and we're jotting down questions that perplex us, because like Diana has said, if you promise to do one thing, they give you a lot of benefit, and if you add certain things to a project, they'll give you added height, they'll give you all kinds of exemptions, so we're now going through that. It is complicated, and it's working with people like Diana and Javier and Robin that we hope to talk to every community, so we find out what everybody's concerned and puzzled with, and then get some answers here.
And another question that I have with regard to this is, you've got we've been dealing with the Executive Directive 1, affordable housing, 100% affordable housing, and now you've got this. How do those two relate, and why do we have an additional one if we're going to adopt the Executive Directive 1 ordinance?
Very confusing.
Well, yeah, and you know, it is, the city offers many different options for a developer. So they can look at ED1 and decide whether that's more beneficial for them to make their project happen through that, or they may look at some of these different projects within the housing element, and they might find they get better benefits going through that. So that's why there's so many plans that are floating, and each one offers a very unique opportunity for a developer. So yeah, it's confusing, Diana, but they're all out there. Community plans are still not part of this, and that's another level.
Yeah, and I think, the ED1 doesn't address some of these extended areas, for example, the parking zone and the public-owned sites are not part of that effort. So this is expanding even more on that, which is, the focus of this effort to allow more affordable housing to be built. Noel, you got a question coming?
Yeah, I've got a couple. Sorry, while I'm making those first couple comments, Javier, would you just allow me to share my screen? Because I need to do that in a minute. These green areas here where they have the dark green and the light green where it says low vehicle miles traveled within a half mile of a metro stop.
Yeah.
It's moot because, as Diana was saying, there aren't any metro stops. It's like the transit-oriented community, the TOC maps that they have for various parts of the city. The buses have to be able to come more, frequently enough during the peak travel times in order to meet that requirement. And we don't have that in San Pedro. So this area here with the low vehicle miles traveled within a half a mile, it's moot. It doesn't matter because none of the bus stops that we have actually qualify for any kind of a TOC
Right now.
benefit.
Yeah.
Right.
Also, the other thing, please let me share my screen, Javier.
Can I finish my presentation and then we can do yours?
Oh,
please?
yeah. Okay, all right. Sorry. Yeah, it had to do with some.
Okay, we'll go back to you. But
And this,
let me just get through this.
Yeah, no sweat.
So the next area that is being looked at is faith-based on housing projects. So properties that are owned or through a company or a corporation indirectly to a faith-based organizations qualify for this. And these need to be at least 80% affordable housing units. So looking into town, we do have some of these properties in town. You look at the purple areas. I'm not familiar with the ones up north. I know some of the ones closer to Gaffey. There's one on 10th Street that seems to be a perfect candidate for that. So they're expanding into this area. And the next one is the state density bonus program. Under this program, there's base incentives that are giving, such as density, height, in parking. And then there's additional incentives given also yard setback, floor area ratio, the FAR, height, space between buildings, lot coverage, lot width, open space, and density calculations. So just to give you an idea, some of the base incentives based on the type of location are on the table here. And I think one of the eligibility requirements is that, you know, they have a minimum of 5 residential units for this. And depending on the level of affordability that they're offering, there will be a requirement as to the minimum percentage of residential density. 100% affordable housing project, so obviously gets the full value. This is based on transit-oriented incentive areas, and the dark area is actually outside of the transit-oriented intensity area. So even properties that are outside of that are now qualifying under this program, which might overlap with some of the other ones we already seen. As you can see, a lot of the area is in the central district downtown, closer to the harbor. And there's some large area here. I'm not familiar with that. But it's towards the end.
In water.
It is.
Yeah. So one of the big things that I think I'm reading through the ordinance is that projects that meet the base incentives can go directly to the building department without applying to the city planning department. So it's going to be considered a by right project, and they won't have to go through that process. So it would be a ministerial approval at that point. So in effect, that it speeds up the process for applications. It just, for some cases, we won't have a chance to see them until they're basically through the process. One of the things that we were talking about is that parking is not required projects within half a mile of a major transit stop, which in our case, we know we don't really have it, but unfortunately, how that's being gauged right now, I'm not really sure. The next area is for adaptive reuse program, and this includes buildings that are at least 15 years old. And previously, it was difficult to justify the cost to do affordable housing on a project like this. So they're looking for incentives to get developers to look into those areas as well. And the purple area is buildings that are 15 years or older. And as you can see, we have a good number of those. Blue are historic resource buildings. And we also have some of those as well in town.
What's the real definition of adaptive reuse?
Adaptive reuse, like I said, it's for buildings that are 15 years or older. Not necessarily a historic building, but just age-wise. And
15 years is not that old.
no, and it's not. So, you know,
I don't know how much they could aggressively improve something 15 years old.
I think that's just the base number, but I think, you know, we're looking at buildings now from the 80s and or what.
But adaptive reuse oftentimes is like the Chopaz building.
Right.
That's an example of adaptive reuse.
I heard the, I got even an agent who loves using the word and whatever, but it's like, what does it really mean?
Yeah, I'm thinking of a building that, usually take a building that's not currently housing, turning it into housing.
Right.
Okay, so
Converting it.
bring it into housing.
Yes.
It's not improvements.
Yes.
That reuse could be for anything.
This is related to affordable housing.
Yeah. So, anyway, those are the focus of the affordable housing incentive program, and okay, no, you're muted.
Sorry, can I share my screen briefly, please? Just it's under security and then allow participants to share screen. It's right at the top. On the lower left, you'll see the security tab.
I'm just gonna make you a temporary co-host.
Oh, okay, great. Ah, here we go. Thank you. All right. So here we have the San Pedro specific plan area. And you'll remember from a number of the maps, like the three different ones, there was a big blue high intensity area over here,
Right.
which is in the coastal zone. And then over here, anything south of 25th Street is in the coastal zone. And then you'll see, I think it was not up there too terribly long, but I think I saw some blue density bonus stuff kind of in this area, which is in the coastal zone, which is not allowed in the coastal zone at this time. And then you've got Pacific Avenue. So anything that's to the east of Pacific Avenue and to the south of 9th Street is in the coastal zone also. And once you get in the coastal zone, in the specific plan, there's a limit in size to 26 feet and 2 stories, even where a mezzanine counts as a story. And you're not allowed to get rid of the parking either for these kinds of things. So the Coastal Act, obviously state law, that at the moment trumps all these other things. And even in areas where there are some laws that are kind of overlapping with the coastal zone, there's a coastal zone protection clause that in the worst case scenario, there's a requirement to harmonize the Coastal Act with any other law that might be contradictory. So the point being that you can't just come in and throw a bunch of 5 or 6 or 7 story buildings in the coastal zone. There's just no way that's going to fly. And most of coastal San Pedro, all of the coastal zone is encompassed within coastal San Pedro, except of course where Central starts right at 13th Street. So you've got this section of Central over here. But coastal San Pedro is all in the coastal zone pretty much. So there's at least 3 of these maps: the density bonus map, the corridor map, and then whatever the other zone map was. Diana was differentiating between them, and I don't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but there were 3 maps that had a lot of projects and incentives for developers to build things that just would never fly in the coastal zone. And then of course, if you're looking at 25th Street, and south of 25th Street is coastal zone, and then just right on the other side of 25th Street is not in the coastal zone, it doesn't fully matter because the Coastal Act still requires there to be transitional requirements from, if you're, for example, adjacent or nearby the coastal zone, you have to take into account the requirements of what the Coastal Act and the certified San Pedro Coastal Land Use Plan that was certified in 1991 all require when you're building something next to the coastal zone also, so that you don't just have coastal zone requirements and then all of a sudden you get a wall of 7-story buildings. That's also not allowed in the Coastal Act. So while I understand the point of doing
There's
this,
a lot of legislation moving through Sacramento.
why please don't interrupt. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
While I understand the point of all of these, and I agree that we certainly need more housing, it doesn't seem as though when these maps were put together that the coastal zone was considered at all. And that's certainly a vital part that needs to be considered. Thank you.
Thanks, Noel. And I'm sure you guys will push on that being on the coastal neighborhood council. Let's see, Diana. Oh, we have
Chad, Alan, and me.
Do we have one or more point persons who are dealing with the city on our concerns? For example, on Noel's concern, who carries that message to the city?
So I think we've got two different points. One is that Maria and Jeff have been working very closely with city planning. And then 2 is neighborhood councils. I think each of us will be putting together a series of comments that we will send. I don't know if that answers your question, but I think part of our job is going to be putting together comments. It's going to take us a while to get our hands around all of this, but that sounds like one of the comments that
The second concern, I was really concerned about, back a little bit, Javier, you were talking about discretionary incentives. What extent are any of those incentive programs discretionary? And I'll tell you why I'm concerned is because when I hear discretion, and a public official or a public employee. I am concerned about undue influence.
About what?
Undue influence, spelled BRIVE.
Well, from what I understand, the number of incentives is gonna depend on the level of the density that they're able to do. On the lower ones, they won't qualify for as many, and there's a table that lists how many they can qualify for. You know, there are specific numbers that they will have a target to go for. But which ones they choose, it's up to it's as long as they're out of the table, they're able to pick them to the number that they're allowed.
So there's base incentives and then there's discretionary.
Yes,
Everyone gets the base incentives no matter what. And then depending on how many units of which kind of affordability and maybe some other.
the density,
factors,
yeah.
they're gonna take some of these discretionary ones.
Sets discretion of the developer. From a-
Right. So as long as they're out of that standard table, they qualify under the ministerial review. If they go off of that list, then it becomes a planning department review, which goes in through the regular process. So, but they do have a lot of leeway into what they can ask for. As long as they're on the list.
Javier, I
Yes.
just wanted to,
Alan was next, actually.
Just a second, Rob. We had Alan.
Thank you. I'm hoping maybe the city's representatives can shed some light on what provisions are included or associated with the plan that provide some program for green space and recreational space. It's possible to increase density while at the same time providing amenities to the community so that it's not just a reduction or degradation of the quality of life. And there's a growing body of studies showing that green space, having birds, butterflies and things like that is good for our physical and mental health. Neighborhoods like to have a place where parents take their kids and have a picnic, something like that. And I don't see much that address those needs for the quality of life of the community.
Unfortunately, a lot of what this does is it allows less green space and less open space for development.
Well, I'm asking.
The one caveat that is that they also have this idea of certain public benefits. And one of the public benefits is providing additional green space, which would allow some other incentives if someone did that. Now, you don't have city representatives on here. They're not city representatives. They're like us.
I misunderstood at the
On a
beginning.
citywide
I
perspective.
apologize.
We're hoping, we've been asking the city to come and we're hoping they might come next month. But we still don't know if they're going to. They haven't committed.
Yeah, Robin, you wanted to say something.
oh yeah, it was just to Pat's point, I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware that our ex-LA deputy mayor is guilty of corruption in case linked to Jose Huizar. That's, Ray Chan, former head of Department of Building and Safety. So I think Pat's point is well taken.
Doug.
Yeah, I raised this before when we had the folks from city planning talk a little bit about opportunity corridors along Western Avenue there, which I saw on the map, north of 19th up toward 9th. I mean, unless I'm misinterpreting this, theoretically, it would be possible, say, for an individual who owns a single family residence on Trotwood, which backs onto Western, to sell the property to a developer who could then put up an apartment building. I mean, that seems to be the theory here. Presumably, depending on whatever, they could go 5 stories, 6 stories.
Okay.
Well, I think the intent is that.
Well, okay, just let me real quick. Forget about intent. This is all about money. Okay, that's how it works. And I'm just looking at that and I'm thinking, okay, I'm not quite sure how everybody else on that street, if anybody is familiar with it. Those are very nice homes and very large lots. And I'm wondering, how does, let's say, 20, 30 apartment units squeezed onto that single family lot surrounded by single family homes? I mean, are they going to enter and exit onto Western Avenue with the speed limit of 40 miles per hour and no sidewalks? Or are they going to enter and exit on Trotwood? Parking, are they going to be parking on Western? Or are they going to be parking on Trotwood? I mean, these are the realistic situations that could occur, unless I'm crazy.
No, that's my theory
I think
too.
that's, I think that's up to
I'm reading the map wrong, which I could be, but I think their focus is on the low density commercial properties at 25th and Western.
No, I'm not talking about
that
25th
whole,
and
that whole
Western.
development that where the Cape is,
No, look,
which is
look
at
at
19th
the,
and Western, that's
go
all.
back to the, go back to
I'm
the
going, I'm
maps.
looking, I'm going to, I'm
Yeah.
actually on Google Maps because I wanted to see more of more detail than what Javier showed.
Yeah,
So
now
I'm-
they have a very large area along Western Avenue that extends fairly far north.
Hey, you guys, I think our guest Jeff Calvert
Yes.
has a response to Doug.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, Doug. Good question. But the way the regulations are written now, you cannot go into single family neighborhoods. You can't residential properties. You can't even link them together. Now, there is a state law that allows you to go into single family neighborhoods, but that means you have to go through the entire city planning commission process and go through the entitlement process with public hearings, et cetera. You can do that on any property right now. But these incentives don't allow you to go into single family zoning.
Okay, I raise it because again, you know, that's a big chunk of blue on the map and I'm looking at it, these are single family homes. What are they thinking? Why
You know what?
has nobody figured that out?
Is it R1 or R2 zoning?
I think it's all R1. And of course, again, it comes back to those properties back onto Western Avenue.
Yeah.
Those are their backyards and none of them have access.
So there was an original map, I think we looked at it. It was the same thing that did go down that to that point. I don't know if this one's been truncated now more.
They reduced some of
Somewhat.
it, but they still had some. And then there's some areas of Western that feasibility it's almost impossible. So I don't even know how that would.
Yeah,
How would that
Exactly.
even happen?
What the suggestion is from here is that each of the three councils separately kind of look more closely at your area. Rather than us trying to look real closely at all of it now. If each of us takes it back to our own area, and I know in Northwest, we kind of already divided up who's gonna look at what, although I think after seeing more maps, we need to revisit how we divided it.
Okay.
We're gonna actually, in Northwest, we're gonna actually drive and look at
Yeah, that's a good idea.
these
I'm
areas.
not gonna solve it all tonight.
No.
Diana said earlier that I think every single example she gave, they didn't require any parking for these like 5, 6, 7-story buildings. And their parking is already no parking on a lot of these streets. It's
Right.
crazy.
But to Diana's point, we have to know,
Anyway.
we should,
Go ahead, Maria. Okay, here.
Areas that are suited.
we do need to note where there may be
The Western.
discrepancies, because right now, the city is saying R1 is not affected. So if we have situations like that, that's the kind of stuff we need to find and isolate, and then go as a group to talk to the city on it. Because they are after every property they can get a hold of. And to Noel's point, the coast is protected, but Scott Wiener is currently trying to break that up. They want to get into the coastal zone. And it is a plan that is being projected now that is going to supposedly cover us for the next 10, 15 years. So we need to be very wary of anything that looks like they're going to upzone areas that we do not agree with. So our whole point in being part of this with you tonight is that we're going to every community. Everybody needs to look at their maps. We, in the meantime, are going to try and make a chart so we know what is exempted and what and where and how much you can add, because this ordinance is full of exemptions for everything anybody is willing to do. So in the meantime, if all of us look at maps and isolate our concerns, I think it's a good way to all then move together.
I have another question too, which is, and I don't know if Maria and Jeff know this, but they've identified in the public lands one, they've identified park space. Well, at least in the past, you were not allowed to build on park land. Has that changed? The state law did not allow building on parkland. Has there been a change to that? Do you know?
Tom, do you know at all of whether that's been changed? They're looking at every possibility.
I think they're looking at every possibility, parklands too.
Yeah. So nothing is particularly sacred. We happen to make them change our ones. That was a battle that we all worked on together for a year and a half to try to prove to them they didn't need our one. But in the meantime, we need to look and hold them accountable for what they're planning here. And yes, they don't, when we bring up the fact that we don't have 15-minute bus service, they say, yeah, but eventually you might. And therefore, they're looking at all these possibilities. So it is something we need to be very careful about.
And to answer the question, most parkland in the city of Los Angeles is zoned PF. And you can't do anything but public facilities in parks or whatever facility. But if you have a joint public-private partnership with a developer on that land, then you can develop it as residential.
But they have identified on that 100% affordable, they've identified parkland that is not public, that is strictly public parkland. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that would be
to identify those.
I have a question for the 9 students that are with us today. Is affordability of housing in San Pedro in the future a matter of concern for you? You ever hear, is this a topic of discussion in your classes in school? Is it a topic of conversation with your parents or relatives, grandparents, anything like that? Anybody? You're not in your head. You can speak now.
Yeah, definitely is. I feel like a lot of the youth have kind of just like accepted that we're just not going to be living in at least like actual students for a while in our lives. Just because of like the housing market being so high. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people that are talking, they're like, if they're not like dorming in the future, they're gonna be like trying to live with their parents as long as they can. Because it's.
Can you speak a little louder?
There's so many people here with hard of hearing. You can tell anyone here.
We're too old.
I was just saying that like, a lot of my peers, they kind of accepted the fact that they're probably not going to be buying a house anytime soon, like in their 20s, even just because of how expensive everything is. And so that's definitely a concern, I think, for everyone.
Yeah.
Louder.
I'm sure all of you guys are just at home and there's that joy of being the first family. But we're probably not going to experience that. Unless we move to like a rural state, there's a lot of desert land too. But the quality of life that we want to stay in LA, we don't want to be renting every month forever into the ends of our lives. And to create more apartments is just adding wood to that fire of this is what's going to be surrounded by us. Just choose an apartment, instead of choosing people. And again, I understand that there is limited space. It would be in a certain block of land. it'd be much more functional to have more people on that. But
Just for the record, not to cast so much doom and gloom on this. But I didn't buy a house till I was like 31. You know, and that was in Texas too, that rural area that was just so awful.
And my children moved to Oklahoma and Oregon to find affordable housing because
A lot of people moved to the Inland Empire to do that. You still have good quality of life, by the way. This is one of the most expensive places to live, period. Actually, San Pedro is the most affordable coastal living in all of Southern California. So more people are actually buying here, but they're priced out at a lot of different spots, which is actually very cool. And there's people now renting stuff downtown and really like the urban living and that type of stuff. So just so you know, there are going to be options out there that as you grow more, you'll find that, oh, this is not too bad and this is cool. And then you save and then hopefully you get somewhere. So
The problem is a lot of what's being built is not
They're apartments.
by their apartments.
Yeah.
which is more affordable.
They're more affordable, but you don't get the ability to save your money.
We've had people come to the committee before years ago, versus stuff on 13th Street saying, please approve this so my child can live in San Pedro.
That's right.
But you're going to be initially priced out of the housing market, but you can get there depending on how you work and get employed and all that other kind of stuff.
I don't want to be doom and gloom, but in February 2024, the median listing home price in Los Angeles was $1.2 million. That's a tough read.
Wow.
I can't afford that on myself.
Wow,
I mean, that's
huge.
It's $1 million, it's $950 in San Pedro.
That's
Really?
right.
Diane and I bought our first house in San Pedro for $22,600. You know, these grandkids here are not gonna have a chance to do anything
I
like
think we have,
By the way, when I bought my house, the interest rate was 10%.
that. I also want to talk to
That,
the good young lady over here, this is the first one to nod her head. And what is the nature of the kinds of conversations you've had, what you have heard about this issue?
where you have to like rent with the roommates and like split rent because it's even apartments are.
Very pricey.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is.
Rent is high in San Pedro.
Is that depressing to you or are you looking forward to that?
A bit of both.
Like New York City.
but part of what
Not like-
this housing element will do will be to have additional housing, which will be more affordable. That is part of what's behind all of this. It will it'll have a huge impact on neighborhoods, but it will create more affordable housing.
Yeah. Yeah, I just wish some of the affordable housing produced was not necessarily just focused on the low end, but also on the middle part,
Workforce.
because the workforce needs that. And, you know, everybody's priced out the same way. So hopefully we could get a balance of that.
550 Harbor, that's been there 3 years now, is 98% leased out. People are paying $2,600 for 800 square feet.
a lot of money.
And probably we all sat here in a committee and somebody said, who's going to live downtown? I know it did and whatever. And there's going to be now at least 300 units coming online within a year in downtown. Just FYI.
Yeah.
And
Very good.
Doug has his.
Doug.
Yeah, just an interesting little statistic I heard today about affordability. In order to afford an apartment in LA, you need an hourly wage of a minimum of $38 an hour.
That's why hopefully.
Somebody has their microphone open.
Okay, can we move on?
Please.
Very good. Somebody has their mic
Yeah.
open.
It's turned off. Did Maria or Jeff have any more comments?
No, I'm thankful and grateful for all of you because you're all bringing up great points. It is a fight that we're trying to figure out, how do we add just regular housing for everybody to be able to afford? They always add apartments and not housing, regular houses for people. And so we take this fight forward. I think we need to balance and figure out, how do we add more affordable housing? Where do we do it? How do we plan for it so it looks good? in our communities and we all live well. So thank you for this opportunity to be at your meeting. And Diana, Javier, and Robin, we look forward to continuing to work at better details on what we want to talk about.
Well, thank you guys for your leadership citywide.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom and Jeff and
Thanks for
Maria.
coming.
But keep your heads up.
My head is up, Rock. I think, you know, we just, I mean,
We're all
it's
moving with
tough.
Rock.
Yeah, so tough times.
I'll check the next item.
Okay, item 5 is housing element ordinance. Diana.
So, you know, our 4 draft ordinances out right now that have to do with implementation of the housing element. The first one is the city, what they call the citywide housing incentive program ordinance, or CHIP. And it lays out the various strategies, the things that we've been talking about and how they're going to apply. The second one is the adaptive reuse ordinance. So what you were asking about adaptive reuse, if you want to know more, you could look at that ordinance, but it would make it easier to convert existing buildings into housing. The third one they call housing element sites ordinance. It addresses things like housing replacement, by right development for 20% affordable projects, ensuring no net loss of affordable housing, and establishing minimum density criteria. This ordinance goes beyond the state law minimum density standards by requiring 20 units per acre on all citywide sites that meet certain zoning classifications and site characteristics. So I'm not quite sure what that all means, but it's something we may want to look at, learn more about. And the last one is the resident protections ordinance. It has a lot of protections for tenants, but I think the most important thing it does is all of these affordable housing. It raises the number of years. Right now, you have to cover after 55 years that the housing would remain affordable at whatever level. But this would raise that to 99 years. So these 4 ordinances are being discussed now. There are webinars scheduled on April 2nd and April 9th if you want to learn more about them. But you have to pre-register for them. That's for the adaptive reuse ordinance. They already did a webinar for, but the slides from that are on the planning department site, and I'll put in the minutes the places to go for those. There will also be a presentation of the whole housing element by the planning department at the plan check meeting on Saturday, April 13th. That is a chance, it's a Zoom meeting, citywide planning meeting, then everyone can participate. And so I will forward that notice when I receive it. So if you want to get more, and then we're inviting planning to come to our meeting. We've invited them every month for the last, I don't know how many months, but we're going to try again for April. They haven't said no, but they also haven't said yes. They said they'd wait till after the presentation on the 13th, and if we still had questions, they'd consider it. So we'll try to get them down here.
That was 5.
That was 5. Yeah. Well, I think, you know.
Buddy, I'm sorry, I have to
stuff
go.
was-
Thank you.
Some of the stuff was released mid of this month, so I think they're kind of still processing that. Okay, anything? Any more on this topic?
Sue's not here, right?
But we have Sergio.
Right, but Sue's not.
No. So Sergio, we have you on the enhanced infrastructure financing districts. Okay, is that correct?
No.
The way you're looking at me, I don't think so.
Something about the look in his face.
What tells me that was.
Thought it was another 4-letter PAIP. I don't know why. But I can speak on EIFD.
Oh, good. Okay.
That's what we asked you to speak up.
I thought maybe you had bad news for us, but okay.
Well, good evening, everyone. It was great to hear you involved in the housing element discussion. I wish more people in the city were involved in this discussion. We don't have a position on the housing element yet in our office. We're hearing it out just like you. But we understand why the city has to make changes to the housing element. NIMBYism exists. It always exists. It exists everywhere. In the poorest communities and the most wealthiest communities, NIMBYism exists. And if
Explain what
we
that
were
is.
going to be, NIMBY is not in my backyard. And so if we were gonna sit here and say, oh, we're gonna build this without this, there'll be an uproar. And so there must be something that has to be done to create housing, to create affordable housing. But it should be in a manner that where there is collaborative discussions, where there is input, where there's serious discussions about the impacts of what it does. And so listening to you participate in this process is exciting. I'm a political junkie, but I'm an even bigger policy nerd and wonk. And so listening to you, I'm excited. I was like taking notes over here. I was like, oh, this is awesome. So just wanted you to know that. Again, our office doesn't have an official position on the housing element at this point, but hopefully sometime soon we're gonna have to, right? But that's where it's at. Anywho, I'm here to talk about EIFD, the Enhanced Infrastructure Financing District. And most of you in the room on the committee know what it is and where we are at, so I'm not gonna give a whole background on what is EIFD and how we got here and what have you. But give you an update as to where we are at. As you know, based on all the news, the city is facing a budget deficit in its next budget cycle. The council member is on the Budget, Finance, and Innovation Committee, and we are beginning to have discussions with departments as we speak. All of the policy team in the council member's office are part of the budget team, and so we are all assigned different departments and what have you. But we know that there is a deficit. We know that some actions the council has taken was causing even more of those deficits, but it is a reality. And so there are some people who are afraid of these EIFBs. Not necessarily ours, by the way, but other EIFBs, like downtown LA. There are people who are working on that EIFD that decided they wanted to put almost all of downtown LA into a particular EIFD. Well, as you all know, there's a lot of building going on in downtown that would have diverted over $1 billion from the general fund in that EIFD there. Well, when San Pedro is talking about theirs and Hollywood is talking about theirs and downtown LA is talking about theirs, and then councilors are sitting around and like, whoa, they're all doing it. We all want to do it. People started getting a little scared. And so in October, Councilor McCosker on October 6th introduced a motion to set some policies about EIFD. But in his motion, it was creative. And he said, and use the San Pedro EIFD as a model for future EIFDs. Let's move forward with San Pedro. Let's do San Pedro. And then let's learn from San Pedro. So, and what worked, great. What didn't work, okay, let's fix that. But let's use San Pedro as a model. And he did that in a way to make San Pedro move forward. Well, a week later, when the motion came before council, the president of the city council and the chair of the budget and finance committee were like, whoa, what in the world? No. So they introduced a competing motion that basically said, we created a policy in 2019, but since then, there's like 4 or 5 bills in the legislature that have amended and changed EIFD. It's time for us to look at our existing policy and update the policy based on these new bills. And until that, let's hold off on all projects.
Oh, my Lord.
So competing, obviously, and the original, both original motions were referred to the transportation, to the Trade, Travel, and Tourism Committee that now oversees economic development as well. Well, the president of the council used his authority as president of the council to also refer to the Budget and Finance Committee chaired by Councilmember Bloomingfield. Well, make a long story short, both motions passed. They were kind of merged together, and there is a study being done to tell us what to do, how to do it based on these new policies that the legislature created. Like, for example, in the original EIFD, it was very specific legislation, it was very specifically on what can be done. Since then, climate change are issues that even one can now address with EIFD. So the warming of the sun and all these other things. The effects of those on the climate can also now be addressed with EIFD. So how do we address wildfires, right? And all these other areas there. Like that, there were other environmental issues, and I forgot what others that were in there. And so the EWDD department is now looking at creating and updating that policy. That policy is almost done. It's getting the last circulations on it. And then that policy will move forward back to council. And council will then receive and file the policy and make it the policy of the city. Where our EIFD is a lot further than any other EIFD. So that's good news. And the good news is that the county is already, they're ready to move forward. They had some concerns with the boundaries. We addressed those concerns with county. We believe county is okay with it now. And so they're ready to move forward. So this is procedurally what will occur. Procedurally what will occur is, God willing, this policy comes forward. It says whatever in it, and we are able to move forward. We are ready to move forward when that policy is adopted. And the motion would be that we, the city council, we're ready to pass a resolution to create this EIFD. That resolution will then go to the county for the county's concurrence on it. And the county's ready to concur. That was the hardest part, to make sure the county was on board. They are on board. Then it goes back basically to say that we're all on board, and we have a time frame to then create the public financing authority. That will allow it to create. But what's holding up now and why we haven't been able to move forward is because of these studies. Now, politically, there are some concerns on the city council, people who don't really understand tax increment districts and how they work, on how do we move forward with EIFDs. There are some folks who are clearly not in favor of it, just on policy-wise, right? Why are we diverting tax dollars from the general fund at a time when we know we have a deficit that we need to pay for services in the city? It's a good policy issue, and there are some people who will stand by it. There are others who believe differently and believe that EIFDs are investment, and that the investment that the tax increments will do in this community would eventually create even a larger tax increment that eventually will go to the city. So there are those discussions, and it is policy differences at the end of the day. But we feel that the San Pedro one, we feel strongly that if and when it gets to council, it will get the support that it needs to move forward. It might be the only one. And there are discussions that maybe it's just one. I will let you know that Councilor McCosker is strongly supporting this EIFD. I have been in the room where he has, in so many words, and let the powers that be know that this EIFD must move forward. That it's not, you cannot compare this one to downtown LA, to Hollywood, to others that are either in the beginning stages or are really going to take tons and tons of tax increment. And so that is where we are at. We do know that the One San Pedro project is depending a lot on this EIFD. We also know that the One San Pedro project is good public policy for Los Angeles. We're talking about the housing element today. This will increase housing, affordable housing, for those that this housing element discussion would do exactly. And so that it is for those reasons that we believe strongly that if and when this comes to council, it will be looked upon favorably by that. But that's where it's at. None of us have seen the draft policy yet. We weren't invited to participate in this drafting, but drafting it now based on our motion is the Department of EWDD DD.
NWSPNC.
What's that stand for?
And I can work with
That one, they're writing it and they support us. We know they support the concept of it. The CLA's office, the CLA works for the city council. They're in support of us on this one. The third person on it is the CAO. They're maybe not as supportive of it because their job is the chief administrative officer is to control the budget of the city. I mean, that's their job. So of course, they may not have as positive feelings on it, but their directive is to come up with a policy. They cannot just not come up with a policy. The directive of council is to come up with a policy. And so that is where we're at. I wish I had more news, but what I do want to tell you, it is not lost. It has not been forgotten. We are on top of it. And as part of the budget process, we're gonna make sure we still on top of it. In the month of April, we are actually starting next week, our briefings with departments. And so when we meet with EWDD, this will be something that comes up as an update on the motion as well as their budget. Let me tell you, it works very well when the council member talks about your department's budget, right? It says, hey, just talk about your budget, EWDD. Oh, okay. Oh, by the way, where's my motion at? Somehow, I don't know why, some people start working harder on a motion. So so that is where it is at. Any questions?
So it's coming along.
It's coming along.
Remind me something, Sergio. I understand the principles of the increase in the incremental taxes remaining for infrastructure development in the district and all of that. Is it lawful? Is it lawful for the district to pay for the increased costs of services, police and fire in particular?
No, that is not allowed under the EIFD rules. But great question. I can, if you wish, I can send you tomorrow. What the law now says you can spend EIFD funds on.
But the reality is if you spend money on that stuff, then that saves budget money for services, right?
That is a reality, theoretically, but the law does not allow that expenditure today.
For example, in one San Pedro where you're having a big increase in the number of units, that means more police services because, domestic violence and things like that happen. So that's the reason for my question, Rock. But, Sergio, if you send it to Diana because she'll actually follow through with it.
So when I look at the agenda that says do not remove, I removed it, Diane, sorry. And it said EIMD. I started taking notes on my phone. So I wasn't doing anything bad. I was taking notes here. And what it does say is that currently EIFDs are able to fund infrastructure maintenance and housing development, economic development, transportation, infrastructure, sewage treatment, and climate adaptation projects and other uses. But I can give you the exact language that was on there. In my notes that I saw on the phone, thank God for glasses. I was able to even put the legislative bill numbers. So I'll put that in there for you, Diana, so you can then distribute it. But people can then also go look at where the language is.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent.
Excellent. You did an excellent presentation, Sergio.
Well, that's pretty good considering I thought it was PAIP.
Good recovery.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
I was knowledgeable about the status of the Jedi zone.
I'm not as knowledgeable because Amanda is handling that.
I think we're going to trade tourism in April.
We are, that I do know, that is true.
Going to committee for approval.
I sat,
I can pull it up.
I staff that committee, so I do know.
Sergio, with the date, April committee.
Second Tuesday, I think it is.
Tuesday, and we are gonna have carpools for people that want to go downtown and testify.
And how we testify?
In support of the Jedi zone.
Just be there. You don't have to say anything.
You don't, you just, but be there in support. It's yeah, okay.
One of the things that I always like to do, this is an easy one, and it's so. I believe in drama. Drama is amazing, right? Everything that's dramatic is good. And so, one of the beautiful things is that someone at least can go up there and say, give her public comment and say, in fact, there's several of us here. In fact, if you're here in support, you IFD from San Pedro, stand.
Right.
When people see everybody stand, they're like, okay, this is good. But if you say everybody from IFD who's here for everybody stand, and the other who stands up is Diana and her husband, then you're like, oh, well, okay, there's not that much.
And we were so involved in the Pacific Avenue Community Walk, which led to this. So I think it's great if we could all be there.
Yeah.
When is it again?
The, when is it? It's the
It's
second
Tuesday.
Tuesday in April at 2:00, Sergio?
At 2:00.
Yeah. So Diana and I will work on getting a notice out and I'll help arrange carpools.
Okay,
Nice.
excellent.
The 9th.
It's the 9th, April 9th?
Yeah.
Thank you.
But let me confirm that.
Yeah, I know it was tentative. Amanda thought that was gonna be the date, but yeah, if you could do that, Sergio, that'd be great.
Very good. Any further comments? Yes.
Well, I just kind of piggybacking on our housing element discussion and what Sergio said. I just hope through this whole discussion on the housing element, instead of being opposed to everything, that maybe we can work together as a community to identify some sites that we can all support for housing. We have to build housing. It's critical for Los Angeles. I live in a duplex. I love it. I wish I owned it. I live in a multifamily neighborhood. It works very well. And I think that if we can just come together and really identify zones or blocks or that would be, I just think a more positive way of really looking at this whole issue. I know it's controversial. I know it's going to be a battle, but it's just what can we support and where can we support it?
Yeah, yeah, and I think, if we look at our town, we are in a mix of multifamily,
Right,
single family. all
exactly.
over. So it's not like it's an unusual proposal. It's just how we do it properly.
Yeah.
That I think we need to focus on rather
Yep.
than.
And it's not so horrible having apartments across the
No, I-
street. I bought a house knowing I was gonna have all these.
I'm in the neighborhood where there's an apartment building and a
Yep.
house and then a couple of houses.
My
and
neighborhood,
more buildings.
yes. Mhm.
And they all kind of seem
Yep,
to.
we all work it out.
So,
Yep, it does. And I have great neighbors. And I just think, I would love to see us do some of that work.
Definitely.
So,
Very good. I guess we're gonna move on to the next item, which is updates on items of interest to the committee. Diana,
we're not gonna.
seems to be the source.
She's like, Pamela Thornton's, no, she's not here.
When I never heard back from her.
Oh, okay.
She's not here.
I thought she was
Yeah,
somewhere.
we're in the office there. I never heard back from her about the team.
a report on passion.
So in the future, I am Pamela's backup and she's my backup. So you can always email me and I can come and present, as long as I know ahead of time, I can get the information. But we're a team of two, so I'm her backup, for
Okay.
planning, and she's my backup for
Good to know.
special projects.
I don't know.
Excellent.
Actually, I was gonna have, Rock, you had a couple of updates you gave us at our meeting. I thought maybe you wanted to give them.
Remind me what I said. I know, no, I know, but. Oh, okay, so first of all. Well, again, I don't like spreading this because it's a little, I don't know if I want to mention that.
Oh,
Don't spread rumors.
you think you feel comfortable saying? I noticed that.
We found out that it's not really in our backyard, but you found out that the strip center on Western near Marie Callender's is going to be all redeveloped. It's not going to go up. And
Wow.
finally we'll get something in there, and so it won't be condos and things like that.
No, it's gonna be redeveloped, the professional building that's in the middle is gonna come down. They're gonna make that an open space.
Oh,
So that they could have outdoor dining or things like that.
nice.
And they're redoing the whole center, but it will stay a commercial.
Excellent.
Is that where the Americano?
Yes.
Used to be?
Yes.
Or it's across the street?
Yeah, no, it's where the amount, it is.
No,
gonna
it's
be.
across the street.
Why not?
Finance.
Near Marie Callender's.
Financing.
The thing right next to Marie Callender's is a Wendy's. The grinder project, they're gonna be ready to move in November. And you'll be able to see floor plans and stuff like that in August.
Where's it going?
Huh?
Where?
The Grinder project where the Grinder restaurant was on Harbor. Harbor.
Rio, right? Rio.
Still, right?
What?
All the Italian names are.
Yeah,
We need a different name for it. The Grinder Project is.
it's called Vivo. Is it Vivo?
Vivo? I have no idea.
Something like that, something Italian, but the Trammell Crow project is 127 units. And we've seen it go up like weeds, right? It's been amazing. So
Ready to move in when?
November.
Wow.
So I talked to Alex last week about it, because I had someone come down and go, I want to see the water. I go to 550. No. And by the way, Elise, nothing's being built where the sunrise is, right?
That is correct at this time.
Okay, so you could fear that it'd be blocked up, because I talked to the 550 people, the leasing agents, they go, oh, you're never gonna be able to see anything, but I don't think that's true. We do know that Trammell Crow may eventually build something similar to 550 where the Green Onion is.
Right.
And we'll call that the Green Onion Project.
You'll confuse me again.
The courthouse looks like it's got a capital markets issue, whatever, but it will happen, but it's. Right now, the argument was, which is sort of interesting when we talk about number of units and stuff, because they've gone to people for financing and stuff. And been talking to, because he was very sure this time last year about what's going on. But they're going, hey, you got 100 units going up on Fifth Street from the developer who did the 7th Street thing across the Whale and Ale. You have the Grinder 127 units. And so they're talking about absorption and stuff. Although I don't really think it's going to be a problem. And I will say, knock on wood, we do know one commercial building on 6th Street, 300 block, was sold. It's the one 3 doors up from La Boca Felice. And that was a guy I brought down to see the People's Place. And so that's it. And then hopefully we'll have another announcement in a month. So that's really interesting where we have it. No, I got 5 calls on people wanting to buy buildings in downtown San Pedro this week, which was amazing.
It's only Wednesday.
They want us doing the Starbucks. I understand that the council.
The councilman doesn't like that?
Sorry, what's the question?
I understand that the councilman does not support the drive-through of the Starbucks at 45th and Western.
That's correct.
And.
But he does support an Outback restaurant.
It's up for sale.
That's
Okay.
Smart and Final, only the Smart and Final.
Only the Smart and Final part of the box?
Yes, and they have a Smart and Final recently, that's why they're doing all the improvements. I think renegotiated a lease till
Yeah.
2041 with a 6-year option after that, correct, Elise?
All I know is they're exploring options.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's very short lease, really.
Are
New
any of
lease.
these, are any of these going into condos where you
No.
could potentially buy?
No.
No,
Yeah.
that was.
There's a
The builders won't build
There's a
them.
10-year liability on the condos. That's why they're not doing them. So the apartments could, but the apartments are more affordable, you know, so.
But speaking of the idea of,
You
we'll
could
never
do
be
an
able to buy a
affordable
home.
homeowner.
Oh, you go to Ponte Vista.
Yeah, well, also developers are
Not
doing
affordable.
rentals for the 10-year period and eventually converting them to condos.
So is that?
Well, they go past the liability period.
So they are, that
Yeah, so you go
excludes it.
past the 10-year period.
Has anybody done that around here? I haven't seen it.
Well, you did.
Clients that have done that, which is
You
actually
went
great for
backwards.
me because I'm
Yeah,
not in
it
that
would be. It would be lovely.
liability problem.
But we do know, like there's a townhome development going to be done right by the Dalmatian American Club. I can't remember how many
Yes.
units, 14, something
Yeah,
like that.
Something like that.
You know, the townhomes
But
and
that's for
eight,
sale for owner. You
Yeah.
can own, you buy them.
it's a townhome.
Yeah.
So,
Planning hearing is coming up in a
11.
couple of weeks.
It's something like that.
Yeah.
It's low teens. And we know the ones on 8th Street and 18th and Mesa flew, just flew like
They
that.
did. It was astonishing.
Mhm.
Well, hopefully
Let me
they're
ask you a question.
somewhat less expensive than a house, so that first buyers have at least a.
But it's the liability issue. So it's the 10-year mark.
I have a
I didn't
question-
know
I
that.
have a question for Rocky, Sergio.
Yeah.
And that has to do with this idea, oh, Jacob,
Jacob, what the hell?
I can't even think of my daughter, Elizabeth.
Oh, we captured her, have we?
We ought to leave already.
Now we know why. Wait a minute, you're not gonna buy her a house?
We've been talking about affordability in housing.
Not answering.
It's spoken up in here.
Yes,
This talk.
yes.
This is a good thing.
very
You
quietly.
need
he's
to
gotta
start
get-
saving for her home.
She's very pleased for us to sign a petition having to do with her allowance.
No, just co-sign the loan, that's all.
Rock and Sergio, you know, they mentioned earlier that the city is looking at increasing the tail or how many years affordability has to be guaranteed on these properties, maybe going to 99 years. My first thought was the New York issue about rent control and how badly that's depressed so many areas of New York City's market. And do you have any thoughts on that? Has the city looked at that?
I have not participated in those discussions, so I wouldn't know if they have or have not looked into that. But we can get an answer for you.
But there was, last year, there were a group of realtors and I got roped into them because they thought I'd be mayor. And we actually met with Jim McCosker, and we actually had even a pre-meeting because San Pedro really does have a lot of mom and pop landlords for residential income here. They aren't big corporations. And ever since COVID, they have not been able to raise rent control, anything built before 78. And so, and they keep passing, you know, things here that you can't do stuff. So we actually met with the councilman and we actually sort of went through the whole council, who would do this and who would do this. But, you know, there's a big wave for, you know, tenant support and whatever. So you'll always see that in the news, but they did allow, I think, February.
My rent went up, yes.
Okay, 4% or something like that. It was part of this, the consumer price index plus something else. They actually picked a CPI from 3 years ago. But to give them support. And the reality is, I mean, for the mom and pops, in fact, some of the landlords were saying, hey, you know, you come to me and you need some help in rent, I'll do it. But if you go to a big corporation, that's not going to happen. So we actually made the argument that actually increases rentals costs instead of doing it. So the appeal to the city council would be give us relief so we can actually lower rental housing costs and keep increasing them. So there's been some.
We have the most mom and pop landlords in CD 15 of all of the council districts in the city of LA.
I'm almost certain of it.
I'm pretty sure I heard that. I don't know, Sergio, if that's correct, but I heard that's in.
But I know a lot of them and, you know, and so anyway, and there was actually the hope of doing a little PR campaign like Lorock did, you know, of getting not, you know, super realtors, but some regular Joes going, hey, I did this investment, you know, and I get a return and you're not allowing me to increase to market rates because they've actually been depressed for 4 years. Yeah.
I thought I saw that the councilman several months ago introduced a motion or an amendment to a motion that was to be helpful to mom and pop.
That's what I thought too. Yeah, I heard that on the news actually, or read an article.
Can you tell us about that?
I mean, I don't, I thought I remember the language in the motion, but we get that for you.
Maybe you can.
I know
We can see what it was. Let's see what it was.
Yeah.
There was he was involved in the whole discussion on rent control. And trying to help the landlords and help negotiate a compromise with those who did not want to negotiate with landlords. And so there was this compromise that extended the
7% increase.
What do we call it? The rule you couldn't raise whatever until I think it was in February. I think they compromised when they wanted like 5, went to 4. And so all that was part of that. And he was the lead on negotiating that.
There was something about mom and pops in one of the actions.
Right, but
There's a grant. There's
That was my-
a grant that was created to help mom and pops. And they actually went on to define what mom and pops was. That was an issue. A guy got up there and goes, well, I am a mom and pop person. I own 100 units or whatever it was. And there was like, well, there was no definition of mom and pops. And yet we put in the ordinance, mom and pop. And so it went on to the.
And just so you guys know, there's several individuals and many individuals who own like 3 4plexes and stuff like that, which is not abnormal. But I will tell you, all of that has suppressed residential income market because, wait a minute, there's 3 rent controls. There's state, there's COVID, there's city of LA. So it gets to be very confusing to people as to what they can do.
And then nobody moves.
And nobody.
Nobody moves.
You're paying $800 for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath apartment.
Was there any talk about in the affordability thing? I'm thinking of the 10 kids that are here today, 11 if we include Jacob.
Wow.
That affordability is fine and everything like that, but at some point, the apartment affordability ought to be conditioned on them swapping it out and selling them. So that the kids who are renting them today can buy them in the future. Is there any talk about that?
I am not involved in the housing discussions in our office. Pamela is, so I would not be able to tell you if discussions are being held on those.
But that
issues.
would be a lease to purchase, it's not what they're doing now. So that would be more like condo-like type thing.
Yeah. I don't know if I was in that age group, you know what I'm trying to. They would buy some by the time I'm 35, I'd certainly like to be able to swap out.
Some of these HOA fees are almost the cost of a mortgage.
Yes. Have to be careful. Yes.
They'll just generally,
Yeah.
lease to purchase generally don't work out, even if you want to do it in residential, it's usually fraught with peril. Everybody tries to stay away from it.
All right, Elise, you wanted to fill us in on,
So I know the council officer, Joe, you can weigh in on this too, and the chamber, we are receiving emails and phone calls about the new adult retail store at Seventh and Pacific called Passions.
Yes.
So Pamela and I communicated, and the individual is there on a legally is there. It is a retail use. He has his permits and it's allowed in the zone. So he is Officer Lee, Richard Lee, our senior lead officer, also today in a meeting stated that as well, but that they will be monitoring it, keeping an eye on the situation. But there's no way he's not violating any laws at this time. And so we have spoken with him, and we have some members in the community who want to work with him on maybe toning down the windows, some more appropriate signage. I mean, maybe there's a way where we can help him have a more elegant display and while we deal with what's there.
I just don't understand the market for that at 7 and Pacific.
So he had a store in Harbor City. And he's been in business for years. He has a base clientele. And this space was available to him, and he lost his lease in Harbor City and he's moved down here.
Well, you know, and he says, I mean, he says his business is being successful here.
So
You remember Kay Fiorentino?
Who?
Kay Fiorentino, I think her name was, remember? She got hold of a beach commissioner uniform, and she used to go out with a flashlight at night, shining in the windows of kids who were parking. And she organized boycotts of adult film stores and things like that. She took care of an awful lot of that kind of stuff in town some years ago.
Just don't understand.
Who did this?
So I mean, it goes to
I
the
mean, there
property owner.
were some issues that he was doing that. There are certain things you can't put on the window. And
That's what we want to work with him
he
on.
did correct
Yes.
certain things that he could not do, so there was some violations. But he corrected those.
According to your planning deputy.
He corrected those, but there are others where people want more, and those are within the code.
Red doors have to go.
Sir,
Do not red door.
my understanding is at 496 feet away from the back of the garden church. That's within 500 feet.
But he's not adult entertainment. It's a retail establishment. So he doesn't fall under the
Correct.
entertainment code. He's retail. And Pamela said when we talked about it, that's the issue. But this goes to our property owners in our community because that building owner chose to lease to that individual. And so we would like to talk to that building owner to just understand it.
We have a similar store down, I don't know, was it 15th, in that strip center by the liquor store?
I don't know. I just know this, we're getting calls and emails on this particular business.
I laughed.
I called the
Rob called me and sent me a text. And parking is impossible, so.
Yeah, like you wanted to.
But, yes.
There you go. Anything else that we
I move to adjourn.
covered? One more thing. I think we are missing the public comment on items not on the agenda.
We just did.
Oh, okay,
One
so
little-
the Starbucks, will Starbucks not follow through? Because I know their emphasis is on drive-throughs. Would they still allow a nice patio?
They're in discussions
So they're.
on how they're gonna move
on how-
forward.
See.
Yes. Oh,
Oh, James,
James.
thank you.
Yes, I don't know if this joint planning committee is interested in a little modification to the new interchange reconfiguration project that doesn't address southbound 110 Harbor Freeway trucks onto Harbor Boulevard, even with the new reconfiguration. There's nothing to address that. And I think there should be a suggestion probably from the joint committee to that project to how to route southbound trucks from 110 so that we don't have any trucks, container trucks coming down onto Harbor Boulevard. Even with a new configuration, when it's completed, they'll still be able to come down to Harbor Boulevard and turn left onto Front Street to get into China Shipping and others. So there is an easy route to point it out. I didn't know if you guys would be interested. And also the tragedy is it's an infill and not a bridge over the last standing possibility of metro rails coming into the new West Harbor area in San Pedro. So they're going to bury them just like the old red car throughout Los Angeles. So anyway, just a couple of thoughts on that. If I thought I would try to have it come through coastal, but I think Central should probably take it up first, unless you guys want to do it together sometime.
Yeah, I support getting that on the next agenda. If you and Javier and Diana agree.
Yes. Definitely, we could consider.
We
Javier,
have the port here.
again, if I could just throw in one public comment, if particularly for students who may be interested in service hours on Sunday, the 14th.
Yes.
Monday, the 14th, from 9 o'clock till noon, there'll be a volunteer activity in Peck Park. April, yes. It's too late for March. So the 14th at Peck Park and at the access point, the trailhead, where Walker terminates and meets Elberon. And this is a habitat restoration project, so.
If you want to give me your email address, I'll send you the notice so that you have all the details. You want to consider volunteering. Also on first Thursday, the Central Neighborhood Council and Northwest are holding a input session into the PAIP, public access. Which has to do with projects on the waterfront, and we'd love to have students come and give us your opinion.
Be great.
And so this is during first Thursday on the 4th. And we'll be in the building that is right next to the Grand Annex.
That's right.
Do you remember the
Our department is putting out a lot of money, millions of dollars. It's designated for public access infrastructure projects. And so the community is providing input on how they want that money spent on the waterfront, basically.
And
And in Wilmington both.
and another.
Give me your address, your email address, I'll send you the notice of that too.
And if you can't make it, or even if you make it and you want to find out from your peers, there's an online survey you can take, right? It's just a quick, like 4-question survey, no personal information collected, so that's another way you can participate. Put that out on your Discord, or, make a TikTok about it, and let's get a lot of young people to fill that survey out.
What you'd like to see on the waterfront here.
One last thing, Maria's Closet had their big give Sunday at Mary Star. And helped out 363 young ladies get palm dresses. And that has grown into a major nonprofit and stuff. And it was just I wasn't there, but saw things online, fabulous event.
Really great.
Excellent. Can I make an announcement?
Yes.
It's not public comment, but an announcement, I guess.
As many of you may know, we had a very tragic accident in Wilmington about a month or two ago with firefighters. When a truck and a CNG tank exploded. 9 firefighters were hospitalized, 2 were in critical condition. Thank God they're doing well now. But during that time, we went to the 2 fire stations in Wilmington who both responded to the incident and realized that their fire stations were in a very bad state of affairs. And so on April 6th, we are hosting a barbecue at the Wilmington Town Square, $12 a person, to raise money for the firefighters that were injured, as well as for upgrades to the 2 fire stations in Wilmington. We're inviting every member of the community. As you know, we believe in the concept of the 1-5. We're 1 district, 5 amazing, deserving, distinct communities. And we are inviting the other communities to come out as well. There's going to be music, entertainment, and what have you. And the mother of all barbecue grills, Moab, I forgot what it's called, will be there. It's a big old barbecue grill, and the firefighters are cooking. And so it should be a fun event, April 6th. I will forward the flyer to you so you can.
Time?
Oh, I knew you were gonna ask me that. Hold on. It is here. I need to zoom in because I don't have my glasses. 11 to 4.
Oh, okay. Excellent. Very good. Very good. So that concludes our meeting, and we will see everyone here on April 24th for our next meeting.
Good
Thank you. And good night, everyone.
night.
Thank you so much.
Alan, I want to give you this back. I don't know.
Thanks for hanging. The truth, I'd rather see the